It went to 22, right?
Or 20?
20. So what do you think?
That was almost like, no, I don't know if I want to say like emotionally, like more emotional than the other two episodes.
Agree.
Because there was a lot of things talked about that I feel like those people were obviously all kind of taken advantage of for the fact that they needed something to believe in. They needed someone to depend on. They needed to feel like they were a part of something. So it's actually like really a sad situation. A lot of those people were taken into this cult experience because they had these needs and wants and they were being fulfilled by this hypnosis. And then mob, obviously it's emotional because I didn't think we'd see a mob explosion until the end because I thought that was like the point was we were counting down, but like we were going pretty fast with the percentages. So I was like, what does this mean? I guess it just resets every time he gets emotionally triggered.
I mean, he lets it out, right?
Oh, yeah. It's like he finally, like, releases that pent up, like, lets his emotions out.
I definitely want to go back to the red the red stroked text, the narration, you know?
Where?
Through, like, while Mob was, like, in the process of...
Raging?
Like here, yeah.
Oh. Okay.
He subconsciously always avoided trying to display those powers. He gradually realized how dangerous his powers were. So, like, do you think that he realized that subconsciously even? Like, he realized how much harm it could do? And what of a monster he could be?
Is it like he has awareness or did something happen? You know how I've said, well, how did he meet Reagan?
Yeah.
How did Reagan meet him? How did they come to be boss and employee? Maybe he did something, and that's how Reagan realized he had powers.
Perhaps.
And Reagan did say he wasn't allowed to use them on people, specifically. So it's like he had to be taught that, or someone needed to tell him, don't do that again.
But from a very young age, we had a flashback with Tsubomi last episode. He said that he only showed her the powers, you know?
Well, maybe his emotional reset thing has been happening from a young age.
It also makes me very, like, even more curious about the familial aspect. If they are also psychic, like, I don't know. It seems it seems weird. Like, it seems like a contrast to what happened at the dinner table with the spoon. Like, I don't know. Like, is it like a family thing and Mob just hasn't told them like his true power, so they don't like respect him, kind of thing? Like, or they don't realize he needs the help. To continue on with the narration, when people are unable to act or do as they please, their emotions come to a halt. Mob hasn't realized that his aversion to using his powers has become a complex. That's a great line.
I wrote down complex.
Yeah. The emotions that are locked away deep inside Mob's heart,
leaking and going wild,
expand little by little. However, there's a limit to how much this emotion can take before leaking out and going wild, like you just said. And now an emotion was swirling out about like a torrent, trying to go past the limit.
And it was rage.
So that's an interesting take, right? Like, is rage the only thing that can make it past its limit? Could, after 100%, it be a different emotion and that could be expressed in a different way?
Maybe. I don't know. Rage is something that's very hard to control, and it's hard to push it down if you're really angry. I think it's one of the hardest emotions to keep at bay and process. So I'm not surprised that that's the one that broke past the limit of self-control.
You know, I cannot express enough in words how awesome and badass Mob is. Like, when he breaks, I think, like,
the design's so good.
The design is so good.
His eyes have color.
In episode 1, from the, like, the first thing we saw, I wrote 100 equals red eyes. And then...
And his hair is like...
The hair is what does it for me, because it is so smart to have his normal design be literally a bowl cut. The most, like, average normal thing that's like, oh, okay.
He looks like he's gonna be just, like, this boring, unpopular kid.
When he is, like, 100%, I'm sure, like, it's a show that's been around a while. I'm sure that it's, like... the consensus that this is the coolest thing in the world, and it's like Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. It's like peak, you know?
Would Tsubomi fall in love with that?
I don't know, dude, but the way that he's drawn is so great. It like almost looks like a different person. Like, and I will try to make sure I put the shot in the discussion editing it, but how cool is it that, like, how the people are drawn in the background here? How awesome is that?
Awesome. And it made me feel happy that even in his rage, he kept the innocent people out of the battlefield. That made me really happy.
It feels like we don't even see Mob. Like it feels like the first 2 episodes and 80% of this episode, we have not even met the real Mob. Mm-hmm. And we have met the result of him suppressing everything. And that's all we know. And, like, I say that because, like, Mask, so there's a trick to that, too. I didn't even notice because it was so weak. Like, how he's talking is so, like, I don't know. It has
the confidence that he should have in his normal... what we've met him as in the last 2 episodes.
It's so interesting because his friends or the people who he was hanging out with were like, Mob, you look so bored. If you're so bored, like, why don't you go home? And he's like, I'm not bored. He kind of looks bored here, like in the 100%. Like I didn't even notice because it was so weak. He's so unbothered. Like
unbothered's a good word.
It's so cool.
It's like he's just looking at this tiny little ant. You know?
And then I don't think we've ever seen this much emotion throughout the first 3 episodes so far. If the policy of your religion is to kill the outsiders, that might... Or is that the next one? Come at me with everything you've got. That might be easier than making me laugh. Ugh. And the aura that he has is very interesting. It's prismatic, unlike a typical anime aura, you know?
There's, like, tons of... a lot of mix of texture in this show that is like different mediums, not just like digital drawing or ink and pen.
It works surprisingly well though.
Mm-hmm. It's like a collage.
You know why I think it works well? Other than every single medium doing the extent of the work to make it as good as possible, I think that why it works for me is... it's just complete contrasting. You have, what I'm a huge fan of, very pencil-y, like, lines drawn on his face. And then as the complete contrast of just digital prisms, like, as his aura, it's literally, it's not like a perfect line character with that. I think it heightens it to the next level that they pick and choose where to use what. Like, look at his pupils here, you know?
It makes it more like an art piece.
It does. It really does. I would love to know how this was in the manga.
Me too. Especially because a lot of the things we're enjoying has a lot of color to it.
Yeah.
It also makes me wonder how that translates in a possible black and white format. I wouldn't be surprised if Mob Psycho has a colored version.
I agree.
I have seen some manga have colored versions.
These are my emotions. How cool, dude. Terrifying.
This is what happens if... He knows that this is what happens when he lets his emotions show, which leads me to believe that it has happened before with an effect that has taught him that it is something he needs to suppress.
Does he know this is what happens when his emotions show normally? When he's not at 100%? Has he, like, made a safety net for himself that he's like, oh, if I, I have not heard any dialogue from Mob to suggest that he is aware. He's not like, oh, Reagan, that's not a good idea. Don't get me angry. Don't make me embarrassed. Like, don't, you know? Mm. Like, it's very interesting because he's very self-aware here.
Yeah, but he might not know when he's at his breaking point.
That's very
until
true.
It snaps. So I don't know if he would necessarily be like, Reagan, I can't do that, because I don't know if he's aware of his countdown.
Well, no, I agree with you, but I'm wondering if, like, this 100% mob is so much more self-aware from anything we've seen from previous mob that it's like, is it like a coping mechanism?
Oh.
Like,
yeah, and that awareness and the more activity in the brain is probably some emotions tied to it.
Well, yeah, like, it's like he's subdued every part of himself.
Everything is melancholy and limited.
Which is great.
Like, limit was one of the words that was said.
Yeah.
He's limited normally.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's like a limit or like a gauge you'd put on like a motorcycle or like a scooter, like, so you can't go past a certain mile per hour.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like and it's so like, in that it would be ironic in the sense that, oh yeah, you're limiting it, but when it does burst, it's going to burst harder than it ever would if it wasn't limited. Which I wonder if that's the case, or it's just like oh no, this is just what I'm actually like. Like, it breaks the seal, you know?
I have like a cartoon that I have been thinking of from watching these episodes of Mob Psycho. And I can't quite put my finger on what's reminding me of it, but I keep thinking of Hey Arnold.
I was thinking
There's something
Ed, Ed,
about Ed, Ed, and Eddie?
But it's not Hey Arnold, it's not Ed, Ed, and Eddie, but I do think that we can find a common ground there, that there is something about this show that reminds me of Western animation. Whether it's the art, whether it's the story, whether it's the like, there's something about it that reminds me of cartoons.
The color
from
blocking the
West.
shadows. I don't know. There's something about it.
I'm with you, though.
I can't figure out what it is. I am not an expert in these things.
No. We both are not. I've been watching a lot of Corridor Crew. I've watched them all the time, forever. But we have like a lot of friends who are professionals in the industry of this stuff. That's where I feel like we've gotten the little bit of knowledge we have. If there ever comes a time that we wanted to pursue that further, we could always do like like, we bring one of our animator friends to talk about like animation friends who work for animation studios, or like CG friends who work for like CG studios, you know, like, and like get like a behind the scenes feel of how this stuff's done.
I love watching something like that with them.
Yeah.
Like, be in the room and hear their thoughts.
Like, if we compile like a few clips, and be like, so like, what's your take on this? Could you explain this like from like a creative standpoint so we understand where potential influences come from? Because
or they might know if something, we might see something and we're like, whoa, but they might see it and they'd be like, that is hard to do, or that takes forever to learn or master.
And like, we love this kind of stuff, but in the grand scheme of things, we can't compare to people who this is their passion in their life, you know? And
we didn't go to school for it either.
Yeah, and like, we don't work this every day, and it could be cool to have that perspective for a lot of these scenes. I bring it up especially in this show because
this is the one that your animator friends have recommended to you.
Yeah, and the animation's obviously great, and the art style's very, very unique in, again, starting Autosave with you has made me realize that I had not watched any anime. But when I was around people who never watched literally any anime, and I watched like 2 or 3 things, I felt like I did. In any of the anime that I have watched, this is by far the most different and unique when it comes to character design and world design. Like, it's very different, and I love it for it.
It definitely sticks out for me in uniqueness. Like, I think the anime I saw recently that also sticks out to me in creativity, very artistic and different manner is Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, which you haven't seen. But I'm really into the unique styles. They stick with you. You remember them. They're memorable. I'm into it. And I'm into this girl that we just met.
Misato.
I feel like they're gonna that's a friendship there. Maybe she's even gonna investigate Mob for the school newspaper.
I kind of would love her to be a reoccurring character.
She's in the intro.
Karata has a dream of meeting extraterrestrials.
Yes.
I don't know if
that should never happen.
And so we have a confirmation that Mob does not have the power of telepathy at the moment, correct?
Which brings up the interesting question of, can he teach himself other things?
Dude, I don't know. I'm very glad. Okay, it's a double-edged sword here, because on one end, I'm very glad that the villain this episode was not human, so we could see Mob go 100%. But on the other hand, I'm like, okay, where the hell are the other psychics, man? Like, I need to see other psychics in this world.
That wasn't even a psychic, it was a possessed guy.
Because we saw, like, Karata and the rest of the club, like, kind of be surprised about, or, like, freak out a little bit from Mob, like,
it's more like, people want it to be real or want it to exist, but they don't actually see it or know that it's actually real.
It's very interesting. Every ounce of thought that I put into, like, percentages growing and guesses all down the drain. I'm okay with it, though. We jumped from 58 to 72 to 88 to 92 to 100
It honestly
in one
makes
episode.
me more excited, though, because
it's unpredictable.
It means that who knows the next time, what the next moments are going to be that push him even a 20% gap, you know, like giant leaps of, like, emotion.
From a storytelling perspective, it makes me feel like there's a better chance now for an overarching story going forward, though. Now that I thought that it could be the reoccurring same story until the season finale where we get that explosion. Now that I know that we already have it, I'm like, maybe there's more to this, like, thematically and, like, in like, regards to the story going forward. Maybe there's more to explore.
I think it's, to me, it hints that it's going to be more involving, Mob and the fact that he is a person in this universe. He's a middle school student. He's gonna make friends. He has a crush. We're gonna see more of those interpersonal relationships, the activities he's going to do. It's less about the fact that he is this assistant or employee of a con artist exorcist, but it's more about the fact that there is this young boy who's trying to figure out how to be something he wants to be, and also trying to keep in his emotions and not let them leak out.
Yeah.
At a very vulnerable time in his life.
I'm enjoying it so far.
Me too.
You good?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you guys so much for watching this video with us. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time. I'm very glad. Okay, it's a double-edged sword here. I'm very glad. Okay, it's a double-edged sword here. It's a double-edged sword here.
It's a double-edged sword here.